Heston Kjerstad is the next to get the call for the Orioles. How much are we going to be all in on him? How much is he going to play? And who's next? All coming up next on the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. I'm Jeff Erickson. He is Fred Zinkie. As always, our podcasts are brought to you by Prize Picks and Vivid Seats. Fred, Heston Kjerstad is the next to get the call for the Orioles as the development train just keeps on chugging down the tracks.
It's true. It's like the Orioles have injuries and then they have or slumps and then they get even better. You know, if a player gets hurt, they can call up someone who's even better than said player, or I guess potentially better. We shouldn't maybe go that far yet, but Jackson Holliday has reminded us that calling up a top prospect doesn't necessarily make your lineup better. Not right away.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And there are countless examples of prospects that struggle in their first, second, third taste and still get it. I mean, let's look at the Orioles. Look at Colton Cowser and Jordan Westburg this year. Westburg kind of held his own last year, but Cowser really struggled.
That's right. And like you said, Westburg even wasn't special last year at all. And is off to this great start. We'll see if he can keep it going. But what the Orioles have, I guess, just that other teams don't have is the ability to be exciting, right? It's the ability to pivot at any point in time to a player with massive potential, which is what's happening right now with Kjerstad.
Yep, exactly. And yeah, this Norfolk team is just a machine. They've been super fun to watch. We're seeing Kobe Mayo highlights all the time, Cowser highlights, Kyle Stowers, Connor Norby. I mean, it was Holiday for a while. It might be Holiday again. We'll see about that. But it's a reminder. So Kjerstad, let's take a look at him himself on the merits here, because it's official. He's gotten the call. He is our number 55 prospect, number 311 dynasty guy. He got the call last year, and there's some positives and negatives. Hit only 233, struck out 10 times in 32 plate appearances. That's not good, but he had 2 homers there. Still slugged 467, and obviously this year in Norfolk, he was hitting 349, 431, 744 as a slug. I mean, it's just tearing it apart for in the International League.
Yeah, it definitely seems like that lineup just overwhelms AAA pitching. I mean, like we're definitely seeing some of the players like Cowser, who were recently on that team, doing well in the majors, but it seems like that lineup, I wonder how much those batters are benefiting from the fact that the pitcher, as he's moving through that lineup, just isn't getting a break. Right. And, we see that in major leagues sometimes with like really great lineups, like kind of like the one the Braves have right now, where they just keep coming at you. But this seems at the AAA level, this is on another level as far as like the absurd dominance, at least to open the season. We'll see where it goes from here. I think the big thing with Kjerstad though is what will his role be and how long will he be up? Like the injury to Hayes seems like it's not one that's going to keep him out for months. So is this the kind of time where Kjerstad's going to be up for 3 weeks, and during those 3 weeks he's only going to play half the time?
Right. I don't think you call up Kjerstad unless you're going to play him. I feel like you're going to play him, and you're going to play him regularly. I understand though. It's tough because, I don't think it's even about Hayes. I think it was going to be tough even before that. Right. Just pulling up their depth chart right now, pulling that up on on another tab.
It's
here.
Just like you can't sit Ryan Mountcastle very much right now. He's got an 888 OPS, just as far as,
although he's banged up right now too. He's got a sore knee. He didn't play yesterday because of that knee.
Yeah, I guess I'm just thinking more like permanent, if he's just day to day. Ryan O'Hearn, I was like, oh, they should sit Ryan O'Hearn. He's just Ryan O'Hearn. He's 30 years old. Like, he's not very good. He's got so far this year an 881 OPS, and last year
batting third against righties. You got
right. And last year with Baltimore, he had an 801 OPS. Yeah. 801 still is excellent. Like if Kjerstad could have an 800 OPS right away, that would be really nice. Like out of the gate. I mean, maybe he could beat it, but that would be really good out of the gate. So it's like the only guy I can see in their lineup that they could really sit would be Jackson Holliday, but that doesn't really work with this whole, like, as far as just someone who's really struggling at the plate, but that doesn't really work with this scenario.
Positionally, it doesn't work very well.
Yeah, exactly what I mean. And Cedric Mullins, even if they were going to try to get creative in their outfield, he has an 808 OPS so far this year. So there's no real need to sit him. It's really just Holliday Or maybe O'Hearn, if you just decide like the future is now and O'Hearn's just not special and it's time for him to just be a backup player, and then you have Mountcastle play first base. I don't know. I want to get behind Kjerstad because I have a lot of fantasy teams that could use an offensive spark, but I'm not totally sure if this is my guy who I dump hundreds of fab dollars on.
It's an interesting thing to kind of break down, and they still have Coby Mayo, whose numbers at AAA are similar, in third baseman. Now that's where the positions could work because they could put Mayo at third and Westberg at second and send Holiday back down.
Yep.
That's something where I could see that happening. I don't think they call up Mayo until like they're absolutely certain he's ready and he's going to play every day.
Yep. I totally agree. This lineup is just, as you're explaining that, I was looking through this lineup, like Adley Rutschman was a number 1 overall pick. Jackson Holiday was a number 1 overall pick.
Yeah.
Kjerstad was a number 2 overall pick. Colton Cowser was a number 5 overall pick. Like it just keeps going. Even Mountcastle was a first round pick. Albeit at the very back, but this lineup is just so full of players. Gunnar Henderson was a second round pick. It's just so full of players who were ticketed for stardom. We're just seeing all these years of the Orioles being bad pay off.
There's no coincidence because they've got Sigmadal in their front office. He was part of the Astros tear down and rebuild. I mean, this is kind of a proven way to do it. But you have to still do it right. I mean, there are teams like the Pirates who have been having similar draft picks all these years, and they still haven't been able to pull this off. And they got Paul Skeens this year that we're super excited about. But I'll say, notice one thing, there's a trend here. The Astros and the Cubs kind of laid the blueprint for the Orioles that they're building around hitters.
Yes.
And then they'll add the pitching on top when they're ready.
I think that's the way to do it. I mean, you lose these pitching prospects. We just saw we were like, to bring it back to our spring training conversations about the Marlins and how much pitching the Marlins have. Well, now Yuri Perez is gone. Like you build, like you have these amazing young pitchers. I'm a Jays fan. Ricky Tiedemann's got an arm injury right now. Like we're not really sure where things are going to go for him. So like maybe
all you have to do is look at Nate Pearson's career path to see that that's nothing's guaranteed. Look at Forrest Whitley on the Astros. Nothing's guaranteed.
That's right. And so for a team like the Orioles, are just overflowing with hitting prospects. It's almost similar to how teams are giving out short contracts to pitchers right now in general. So they're not saying they won't pay pitchers. They're just saying if they're going to pay you, they need you to pitch. So we'll give you a 2-year deal, maybe a 3-year deal, because we can't just soak up years of paying you and you not pitching. It's not that far off with the prospects where we're like, okay, if we're going to invest an early round pick on you, we need you to play. And these hitters like Kjerstad could turn out to be an all-star, or he could turn out to just be like pretty good, but he'll probably turn out to be something. Like at absolute worst, he'll probably turn out to just be like an average player.
The next Austin Hayes.
That's what I was just thinking. I was actually just thinking if I was going to say that or give him a little more credit, but that kind of thing. And now they're overflowing with hitting prospects. They can just trade for pitching. They did it with Corbin Burns. They'll probably do it again this year. And if they don't do it during this year, they'll do it next offseason where boom, they just plunk in another really good starter because they could trade Kjerstad or any of these prospects and get a really good starter. So I think that's the way to do it. I mean, you can't be so simple as just say, well, we're just not going to draft any pitchers, but if you're in a deep rebuild, build around hitting. I think that could be the way to do it. Anyways, jumping back to fantasy, do you think, I guess the die will be cast with Kjerstad between now and Sunday, just I guess on how much he plays in the next 4 or 5 days, and if the Orioles make any comments about how much he's going to play. But
the short-term outlook for sure, he's going to play a bunch. I would think.
Yes,
right. Maybe
I would assume so.
Lefty or so once or twice, but even that, I'm skeptical that he sits that much. Again, you don't call him up if you're not playing him. Looking at the Orioles schedule, they face Griffin Canning tonight, Tyler Anderson tomorrow. That's a lefty. J.P. Sears over the weekend. Sears is not just a lefty, but a good lefty at this point in time. So that's possibly 2 sits, but we'll see. Maybe splits.
Maybe splits does one and not the other.
But the question is when everybody's healthy. Like when sorry to interrupt you. But
No, that's fine. When Hayes is back, like what happens? Does Kjerstad just go back down? That is the question, and some of it will depend on how he plays. But in some ways, it may not. Like when Hayes comes back, they might just say, "Well, we're not sending Cowser down. We're not like we can't."
No, obviously,
we're not benching.
the cow is out of the barn.
That's it for sure. And we're not benching O'Hearn, so
Right.
that's the other one that to me would be really obvious at some point. Is O'Hearn just the clock strikes 12 on him? He has a few weeks with a 700 OPS, and then they just make him a backup. But
It's
I don't
possible
know.
they're showcasing Kjerstad for a trade too, right?
I guess it's possible. I don't know if they even need to do that. How could you showcase him any better than what he's been doing in AAA, right? Like everybody's
Doing it in
drooling.
the
In
majors.
fact, I guess he could only lose. I guess he could gain value if he came up and just ripped it up right away. But he could
Mhm.
also, I guess, lose value if he looked a little overmatched. I don't know.
Mm.
Anyways,
Well,
I will be very, very interested in how the next few days goes with him because, like I said, I have multiple teams where my pitching's been better than my hitting. I could use an impact bat. I'm just not for sure convinced that this is the guy I throw $250 fab dollars on, or if
this
I just make a competitive $100 bid just to price
this
him
whole
wrong.
segment is brought to you by Fred trying to lower my bid on Kjerstad and mixed labor. But we'll see about that. The week will tell anyhow. But we'll
For
find
sure.
out. Uh, Before we talk about the pitching, the Orioles did get some good pitching last night. Quick note from our friends at Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best way to get action on sports in more than 30 states across the country. Prize Picks is really simple to play. I can make my picks and submit my entry in less than 60 seconds. And I can do that in California, by the way. You just pick more or less on two or more player stats and watch the winnings roll in. It could, for instance, tonight I've got an NBA play going on right now. They had a deal on Carl Anthony Towns. I think that's since expired, but they always have these specials with lowered projections and things like that. Sometimes they're absurdly low because they're really trying to get you in, like a Kevin Durant Christmas Day half a point one there. But do it for baseball, basketball, football, hockey, soccer, you name it, they do it. And you can always use RotoWire's picks tool to help you do well on Prize Picks as well, where we're adding enhancements to that all the time. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types are what make Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Download the app today and use code ROTOPOD for our first deposit match up to $100. That's promo code ROTOPOD for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. All right. Albert Suarez was one of many pitcher call-ups getting a chance to go today or tomorrow, or yesterday or today at 2 starts, or interesting pickups this week. Suarez has now 2 starts in the majors and hasn't allowed an earned run yet, Fred.
Yeah, it's hard to get. So you won him over me I bet I was second in our labor league.
I got him there. Yeah, that's right.
I picked him up cheap. I heard you and Scott talking about how he's going for $30, things like that. I managed to pick him up in a couple of my NFBC leagues for like single digits. I felt like there was very little buzz over him. I get it. It's hard to get too excited about someone who's 34 and and has like no real major league success. But it's the Orioles. It's a good team. It's a good park to pitch in. And even though he wasn't pitching in it last night, I took a shot on him as a 1-start, potentially 2-start pitcher this week. So did you in a couple leagues. So did you in some leagues. And he came through, right?
Yeah, he
came
sure
through.
did. I was sold on Suarez when he made that spring training start against the Phillies. I know it's dumb to do that, but it was against the Phillies starters, and he was just missing bats left and right. The whole focus of that game was Jackson Holiday versus Zach Wheeler, and Holiday played well in that one. But Suarez was the sneaky star of the show on that day. He followed up with some other good spring training outings. His first start in the majors was good, and then he followed it up last night. Craig Kimbrell made it interesting last night, loaded the bases, struck out Mike Trout looking with the bases loaded after giving up a run, but still pretty good stuff from Suarez. I think he's earned that next start this weekend against Oakland, keeping in mind that they'll ultimately get John Means back. And then beyond that, Kyle Bradish. So Suarez is not going to be guaranteed anything, but he could compete with Irvin and Kramer for those rotation spots too.
Yeah, I think it's possible. My thought when I was adding him was that, if it was same as you, if this Angels start went well, he would probably get the A start on the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Some sites, including RotoWire, had them slated to skip him and just use Grayson Rodriguez on Sunday.
Yep.
My thought was that on Monday they open a series at home against the Yankees. So if Suarez pitched well against the Angels, why not have Suarez make the Sunday start against the A's? Very manageable. Push back Rodriguez a day and get to use him to start off that key divisional series. So I don't know. We'll see what they end up doing, but I think that seems RotoWire now is showing that. We'll see. I think that's much more likely now. So
and originally we had Suarez as a two-stepper, then we changed it, and then we changed it back.
It's hard. It's impossible totally to know because, like I said, some of it would have depended how he did. And as you said, maybe his rotation spot isn't permanent. But when we're talking about bidding, whether it's $20 or $5 out of your $1,000 budget on someone just for a week, like who cares? I had the Angels start for a couple teams that I would just need one more starter to fill out my rotation. And if he does pitch well, there is a chance that he sticks over Cole Irvin for sure. There's also a chance that they just send him down.
Right.
And don't really care because, again, he's 34 with limited major league experience. But Cole Irvin has been struggling to put batters away. He's got 13 strikeouts in 21 innings. So, and John Means, who I have stashed in one league, and I'm actually thinking about getting rid of him. He has really struggled in his minor league rehab assignments. So 5 homers allowed in 7 1/3, like 5 walks in 7 1/3, which is not John Means like.
I put John Means and Mike Soroka in the same bucket, basically.
Yeah.
I wish them the best, but from afar. Not on my roster, unfortunately. All Keaton does is win. Keaton Winn in the same window dealt pretty well against the Mets yesterday. He's had 2 wins in a row. He's pretty decent so far. He was injured a little bit in spring training, so I think the acquisition cost on Keaton Winn was pretty low, and I grabbed him in the late rounds of the main event, and luckily he's been a nice little find.
For sure. I don't think Keaton Winn's this good, but that's okay. He could be not this good and still rosterable. He's got a 3.54 ERA. He's got a 1.04 WHIP. The thing about Keaton Winn that's good is that he gets a ton of ground balls. So that should keep his ERA decent as the year goes on. Probably won't give up a ton of home runs. The problem is so far he's got a 239 BABIP, and ground ballers just don't really usually maintain BABIPs around 239. Some balls are going to get through the infield. So he's probably more like a 4 ERA pitcher. And then the WHIP obviously would go up too. But if he was a 4 ERA pitcher with a 1.2 WHIP, 1.22 WHIP, something like that, 1.24 WHIP, that'd be fine. Totally fine. So I think as a 5 to 6 inning pitcher who not a great strikeout rate, but maybe averages about 5 strikeouts per start, I think that's totally possible with Winn. And he was someone who was available still in one of my leagues a week or two ago. I didn't end up getting him. There was someone else I think I wanted more. But I think he's someone who could stick on rosters. The high ground ball rate, I think, makes up for the low strikeout rate.
Agreed. I think Keaton Winn is somebody that this week he's last 2 starts have been against Miami and Pittsburgh. His first 2 are against San Diego and the Dodgers, and he held his own in those. He gets Pittsburgh I should say Miami and the Mets. He gets Pittsburgh this weekend, a home start. And the thing about Winn is you spot him at home or weak opponents on the road. But the following week, he gets a 1-start week at Philly. You're going to bench him next week. And that's fine, but just have to realize that.
Yeah, for sure. One of the thoughts I had on Winn as a comparable was actually Marcus Stroman. Marcus Stroman's someone who's survived for years with a very mediocre strikeout rate, gets a lot of ground balls, typically not a big whip asset. His career was 125, but the ground balls, keeps the ball in the yard. His career ERA is 363. I think Winn could maybe be in that bucket where he gives you like a 125 whip this year. Maybe the ERA is not quite 363. Maybe it's 4, but again, still usable in this landscape as a streamer, and not a streamer who goes on and off waivers. A streamer who just goes on and off your bench.
Yeah, agreed.
A good find. Yeah, I wish I had some shares.
I'm kind of like alternating him and Matt Waldron for a spot. Waldron has Coors Field start. Let's just stipulate though that the Rockies are really terrible. And I know I'm breaking ground here, announcing that and all that, but they've had last week they began a homestand. They had 3 games against the Mariners. They've got a 4-game series this week against the Padres, and then they go to the surface of the moon, aka Mexico City, for 2 games against the Astros. They've scored 5 runs, Fred, in 4 games at home at Coors Field, which is still Coors Field, by the way. The Rockies are just beyond pathetic right now.
They are in a bit of a slump. for sure. The Rockies this season at home are middle of the pack in OPS. They're 16th in baseball in OPS at home this year. So, and that's factoring in obviously this little cold spell. On the season, they're actually 22nd in OPS.
And they get half their games in Coors Field.
And they have half their games. Yeah, I don't know if they've played half their games. So I can tell you, actually, they've played 10 out of 23. So 10 at home, 13 on the road. On the road, they are 20th in OPS, actually. So anyways, so far this year, the Rockies have actually been a not good offense, but not a totally pathetic offense. Like, for example, like obviously the White Sox have been way worse than the Rockies and everyone else, but other teams like the Twins, the Cardinals, the Tigers, they all have a lower OPS so far. The Mariners, the Rays all have a lower OPS so far than the Rockies. So one of the things though that I think is worth discussing is like they've been middle of the pack at home. Like, do you loosen up a little bit on, because they're so bad, do you loosen up a little bit on using pitchers at Coors Field?
Yeah. A little bit.
A little bit. Remember, there's also it's not just the ERA, it's the win potential. Right? So like maybe you're rolling the dice a little bit. I think I might have used Michael King in one league this week. He's supposed to start at Coors. And I didn't really like it, but I went with it because the Rockies stink. So there's a chance Michael King lets in 3 or 4 runs, but then the opposing pitcher lets in 6 and he gets the win.
Yeah, that's true. It's all out there.
It's not great, but I don't know. I'm a little more open, at least right now, before it fully warms up. Maybe it'll change this summer, but before it fully warms up, I'm a little more open to using pitchers at Coors Field. Even with the Rockies being bad the last couple of years, I tried not to use anyone at Coors.
I'm trying to be as risk averse as possible with my starts right now. It's something that James Anderson brought up one time when we had him on the Sirius XM show. Like, he's not touching the Atlanta in Atlanta, the Dodgers in LA, the Red Sox in Boston. These are really bad setups here in Coors Field too. So I benched Matt Waldron this week. I'd much the bigger evil is having a guy get torched than having in your active lineup than having a good start on your bench.
Yep. Oh, absolutely. Yes. And that's why I've always been kind of risk averse with using Coors Field. But like I said, I've opened a little bit to it. Like you'd always start an ace in Coors, but I've maybe gone down a little bit on that. By the way, if I gave you a whole bunch of guesses, I bet you wouldn't get the team that's been the best in baseball hitting on the road this year or at home this year, because that team has a really crummy record, and that team is the Houston Astros by a lot.
Yeah, I noticed that the other day because I was doing the Tout Wars DFS Tuesday night thing, and I was just looking at team like WOBAs and things like that, and the Astros were scoring highly offensively. It's just that their pitching has been tragic.
They're also 28th in baseball hitting on the road this year. So just weird. The sample sizes are so small. Opponents, who you've played at home, who you've played on the road, we're still at that stage where it comes into all those effects. But which goes to show how much you don't like. I wouldn't worry that much about starting someone in Houston if it was a pitcher who I'd normally want to start. And like you said, the pitching's been so bad. The Astros are 29th in baseball, only ahead of the Rockies in team ERA. That's insane. I was to say that one totally shocks me. Everyone else down near them makes some sense. Although the Rays are 24th, but there's also it's not linear, right? Like around 25th, there's like a huge drop off. The Rays are above it. Like they could have a couple good games and all of a sudden be like 17th in ERA. Yeah. The Astros could not. They have been just a total disaster from the pitching department.
And they just lost Christian Javier, who was actually not one of the guys hurting them. They had Ronel Blanco emerge. He's actually been good. They've had a lot of bad breaks, but they've had a couple of good breaks in there, and yet that's where they're at. Their bullpen, Fred, has been horrible. Scott and I were talking about that, I think, on Sunday a little bit. Hader's been terrible. Brian Abreu's got a high whip.
Yep.
Ryan Presley's got a whip over 2.
Yep.
I mean, it's really tough. When your top 3 relievers are terrible, that's a good way to kind of inflate that team ERA.
Yeah, and lose games because they're pitching in the highest leverage situations. Hunter
Yep.
Brown's been terrible. Yeah, absolutely. So, if you would have said before the season that the Astros would find a pitcher out of nowhere in Ronel Blanco who would be great and get
Mhm.
Verlander back by the middle of April and be 28th and 29th, sorry, in ERA, like I would have never believed you. So,
Yeah.
anyways, we're a little off topic there, but I do find some of those things interesting. And these trends we need to keep up on because they challenge the way we think about certain teams. Like it's still early in the season, but we're 20 to 25 games in per team. So like we're starting to see some trends emerge, at least a
Yeah.
little bit.
One is a positive trend on the Phillies, and we'll talk about that in a second. But first, finally, baseball is back. This MLB season, knock it out of the park with vivid seats and score great tickets to the biggest games of the year. Every fastball, every home run, and every eye-popping play of your favorite team live and in person. Plus, with Vivid Seats rewards, you earn rewards with every single purchase. Just buy 10 tickets, then cash in your credit towards your free 11th ticket. Talk about an easy win. And here's a pro reward tip. Pool your money together. You buy the tickets for everyone, get the credit for the free 11th ticket a lot faster, and everybody can chip in for those tickets. You're just helping them out. It's a convenience fee. It's nice. From behind the dugout to the upper deck, Vivid Seats has the great tickets for all the 2024 games that matter to you. Just visit vividseats.com or download the app today. Vivid Seats. Experience it live. See vividseats.com/rewards for terms and conditions. All right. Thanks to Vivid Seats. Also, thanks to Blue Wire. We're on their network. Here are their ads. All right. Thank you, everybody, for that. Let's talk a little bit about a good team, and that is at least a good pitching team, and that is the Philadelphia Phillies. I'm hoping to have a little bit more in-depth Phillies conversation on Thursday. More to come on that as soon as I know. But Ranger Suarez dealing, Fred. Number one on the earned auction value tool for pitchers, starting pitchers right now, just rolling. He defied the avoid Great American Ballpark rule.
Yeah, he did. He's been that hot lately. Hasn't allowed a run in any of his last 3 starts. He's got a complete game in there. Like these sound like like numbers from a bygone generation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Him having 22 scoreless innings in his last 3 starts. Dominant enough, like he's basically a strikeout per inning, which when you're facing this few batters, giving up this few base runners, like is a pretty good strikeout rate. I don't have the percentage in front of me right now, but he's now made a start, like you said, on the road against the Reds. He's made a start at home against Atlanta. It wasn't dominant, but there's a quality opponent. He had a home start against Pittsburgh, which Pittsburgh's, I'd say, a middle of the pack lineup right now so far this year. His other starts have been kind of favorable, but like the home to Colorado is pretty nice. But absolutely dealing. And we've got nothing in his past sample size that would indicate that he's actually this good.
Right.
So do you sell high on him?
He helped Phil Dussault win the main event. I've told the story many times before, but he and others have spread the tale as well. But when DeGrom got hurt, Phil was quick to cut him and pick up Ranger Suarez, who was getting moved to a starter, and he was dominant for those 2 months. So there's little tiny trends showing that he has it in him. I don't know. I think instead he faced a Rockies. I think he's a good, solid, cromulent pitcher, and I use that word all the time. I know. But I think Ranger Suarez is a guy that's kind of benefited from being in perfect form and facing the right opponents. He beat the Rockies on the road. He beat the Reds. And if you look at the lineup the Reds rostered yesterday, don't. It's like looking directly into the sun. Don't do it.
There's some really fascinating things too in his underlying stats because he's throwing like his velocity's down. Yeah. That's a really weird one. Like his velocity's down about 1.5 miles from last year, and that's on his fastball and on his slider. But his strikeout rate's up. So even with the down velocity, this is a really weird one. And then also the quality of contact against him is way down. Like his average EV right now is 81 miles an hour. So everything looks better until you scroll all the way down to his velocity, and then you're like, wait, how are you doing this? Like you're throwing not as hard and you're getting way better results. So his pitch mix hasn't even changed much from last year.
Yeah.
So
very odd.
He's spotting his pitching really well. He's on a heater. If I could sell high in a trading league, I would, but I don't know if you really can yet. Like I don't think most of the leagues that people who are listening to this podcast play in are going to value Ranger Suarez as like a number 2 fantasy starter based on 5 great starts. Like, truthfully, if I could give that advice to people just kind of playing in Yahoo leagues, when I write articles for Yahoo, like, you could get out there in some Yahoo public leagues and try to sell Ranger Suarez high. I think in most of the leagues we play in, I think you just hold and hope that this ends up being like a really long heater, because I don't think you'll get a ton for him.
Here, so I have some straight up trades using Yahoo's tool, which, I love doing that. Ranger Suarez has been involved in 11 trades, 4 of which are one for one trades. Dylan Cease straight up for Ranger Suarez.
Dylan Cease by a mile.
Yeah, he dominated yesterday, albeit against the eating pace Rockies. But Aaron Savale for Ranger Suarez. Is that a good demonstration of selling high? Or is that
I'll take Aaron Savale in the long run, but you're right. That one is in the wheelhouse. Whereas Aaron Savale's like, I could argue Suarez. Like, I'll take Savale, but I could totally argue Suarez. Like, Aaron Savale's not special. Like,
yeah,
he's never even thrown 125 innings this season. Actually, the more I talk about it, the more I might just take my shot that Suarez keeps this going and not go to Savale. But maybe I take Suarez. That's a really fair trade, in my opinion, with Suarez on a hot streak right now.
Yeah, I agree. One more, Bryce Terang straight up for Ranger Suarez. That one's interesting to me.
Really fun one, right? 2 potential flashes in the pan, potentially having breakout seasons. I think I would, if it's a roto league, I think I would take Bryce Terang. His BABIP's not super high and he's hitting 314. So there's some sustainability there. Like, he's only struck out 11 times in 77 plate appearances. So, and the speed's for real. The speed was never in doubt with Terang. Like, he stole 26 bases last year and 404 at bats. So, without even hitting for average. So I think I would take Terang. What do you think? I guess I know team context, blah blah blah.
It's so hard to find starting pitching right now. I feel like it's easier to find stolen bases.
That's true. That's a good point.
I think I'd probably take the Suarez side of that.
Okay,
but I think it's an interesting challenge trade there.
With the Savale one and the Terang one, we found some pretty fair deals that would probably go into team context.
Yep. Indeed. Bryce Elder pitched a gem yesterday against the Marlins, who are the Marlins. But are we interested in Bryce Elder rest of season?
Yep. I think we have to be in 15s.
Yeah.
Even with his inconsistent, like, low strikeout rate last year, inconsistent results, but he still finished with a 3.81 ERA on the team in baseball that will probably finish the year scoring the most runs. So, I think you have to be interested. Someone who's going to get that run support, has a decent bullpen behind him. He's not going to get you a lot of strikeouts, but if he could have an ERA around 4 and maybe could win 10 games if he can stay in the rotation, I think I am interested. I didn't get in on Elder at all last weekend. I've probably missed the boat everywhere. Some people stashed him even the week before.
For sure.
And I didn't really. I know the upside's a little bit limited because the strikeout rate's poor, but yeah, I think he could stick, and I think he could be someone who's on 15-team league rosters and probably 12s, like sticks on 12s. Yeah.
The thing that's worrisome to me about Elder is twofold. One, he fell apart towards the end of the year last year. 2, it's kind of a high walk rate, 8.6% last year. Now, he didn't walk any Marlins yesterday, and that's encouraging, but we're talking about a K- walk percentage of less than 10%. That's definitely not that great. So you don't want guys that, can't miss bats. You especially in that ballpark, because and granted, I think it boosts good hitters more, and the Marlins are not that. But I'm a little wary.
You're right that the walks down the stretch last year, especially, were a really big problem. Like, really big problem.
Yep. Elder's next starts Sunday against Cleveland. Cleveland quietly scoring a lot of runs so far this year. Best run differential in baseball. And then the following Saturday at the Dodgers. So that might quell my enthusiasm, especially in the short term, and especially in a league where, like, say if he's available in LABR, like the league you and I are in, we have to have him active if we pick him up.
Oh, that's a tough one at the Dodgers. That's a great series, by the way, at the end of April.
Yeah,
Braves Dodgers. But yeah, that. So if you got ahead of the game on Elder and you have him in your lineup this week, you're in really good shape. You just got to win. The Cleveland start is reasonable. If you didn't get ahead of the game on Elder, but he's still out there, then yeah, that Dodgers start is a big deterrent. In labor, it might be enough to make me not pick him up. In NFBCs, I would still pick him up, but obviously, like, it maybe knocks my bid down a little bit that I can't use him right away.
For sure.
And there'd be some leagues, truthfully, and I'm sure you're in this boat too. There'd be some leagues where I have too many injuries and I can't pick him up unless I'm going to start him next week. Like I found when I was doing my bids on Sunday night, like there was 2 or 3 leagues where I needed to get a pitcher, but the pitcher had to have availability for this week. Like
right.
I could not be like, oh, I like this guy. Oh, Jake Irvin was one guy I looked at in my waterfall in some leagues, but he's at the Dodgers this week. And I was like, well, I can't use him, so I can't pick him up. Like whichever pitcher I get, I need to put him in my lineup this week.
That's why I was more on Colonel Parker than I was on Jake Irvin.
Exactly. I was more on Trevor Williams than Jake Irvin. And it's not that I like Trevor Williams more.
I have standards. I know Williams has been good this year, but there's no way.
It was just that his start this week was against Miami. So I had interest in him. As I don't think I got him anywhere. I think I got Suarez instead of him actually in most of the spots. But anyways, the Williams thing was just whatever, pitch and ditch against Miami this week. But I find in a lot of my NFBC leagues, I've got 2 injured hitters and 2 injured pitchers, and I need to have some hitter on my bench. And so anyways, when I go into, and then I got a pitcher who I can't drop because he's too good, but his matchup's against Atlanta, so I can't start him. So then I end up needing to just get one pitcher for the week. And that
next item in our outline is not a question. It is a statement of fact, apparently. We undervalued, you say you only hear what you want to, Kikuchi.
Maybe I didn't put a question mark after that in our outline.
And you probably didn't use the Lisa Loeb reference either. But
I didn't.
That might have been me editorial adding that one in for effect. Kikuchi was good again yesterday against the Royals. He also gets the Dodgers in his next start. Do the Dodgers play everybody?
They do. They're splitting up. They're so good. They're splitting up their roster.
Are amigos falling from the sky? Yusei Kikuchi so far, 228, 108 on his ratios, 33 strikeouts so far in 27 innings. He's built off of last year. He didn't regress off of last year. He's progressed after last year.
That's right. So if you were someone who was a little moderate on his expectations and said, well, at best, he'll repeat last year, because he's had some down years in his career. He's been here a few years now. Like he's had multiple years with a lot of starts in an ERA in the 5s. So, and whips of like 1.5. So anyways, but so far this year, you're right. He's built on last year. He's got a better ground ball rate this year. His walk rate's about the same. His strikeout rate is better. So he's showing better skills than ever before. I'm not totally convinced that this can maintain, but I don't know. I'm maybe more interested that Kikuchi. I'd rather have Kikuchi than Suarez. How about that? Would you?
You're talking Ranger Suarez, not Albert.
Yeah, Ranger Suarez, who we just talked about. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. Actually,
what if I told you that Kikuchi faced the Yankees 2 out of his 5 starts to get these great numbers?
What if I told you the Yankees got shut out yesterday by JP Sears?
That's true. So we're not afraid of the Yankees.
What if I told you?
Yeah.
I'm not super afraid of the Yankees. Right?
Actually, you're right. The Yankees they're like middle of the pack in team OPS. They've been an average offense so far.
Yeah, they have.
Kikuchi's velocities are about the same as last year, so there's no real change there. He's probably a little bit like Suarez. His average exit velocity is down a bit, so that's helping him obviously a bit. Strikeout rate's up a bit. Walk rate's the same. Like he's a little bit like Suarez, except at least with Kikuchi, his velocity's not down.
True. True. I like them both. I mean, these guys are essential. You know, you got to find these guys.
Absolutely. These are the league winners.
Yeah.
Right? You get 2 or 3 Suarez's and Kikuchis, and all of a sudden your rotation's awesome, and you didn't pay a lot for it.
Well, and certainly in my case where I didn't pay a lot for a starting pitcher in the main event, you know, finding a guy or two like that is just, it's so life-giving. It's beautiful. Tanner Houck, same thing. He pitches tonight at Cleveland. I'm worried about that start, although he dominated him last time. Second time around, Christopher Sanchez had 10 Ks last time. He's at Cincy. I'm starting both those guys tonight. I hate touting that because I almost feel like it's just asking to get knocked down a peg. But those guys are essential. Getting Keaton Winn to get the last two wins, last two times out. That's massive. Every win is sacred.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. I feel really good about Houck tonight. I feel fine about Sanchez. Not excited, but I feel fine about Sanchez. Houck though, I feel it's hard not to 28-2 strikeout to walk, right? Like it's hard not to get pretty fired up about that. Yeah, Sanchez is an interesting one where his whip's really high because his BABIP's really high. He's got 356 BABIP, so which has made his whip high. So when you first look at his ERA and whip, you're like, oh, these don't really line up. But actually, his BABIP's really high. His whip should be much lower. I think I like Sanchez a lot.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
Jay Grizz, thank you for the kind words there. Smash that like button. We do ask for you to do that. Like, subscribe, rate if you get time. And then, of course, always, check out the free subscription to RotoWire while you're at it too. RotoWire.com/pod. Get you a free peek behind the paywall. You can check out all of our work. You can check out my free agents article I posted yesterday. Results from all my managed fab leagues from the weekend there. I do that every Monday. So check that out when you get a chance, please. Really appreciate you as far as that goes. Let's talk about one more pitcher that dealt yesterday, and that is one Christopher Paddack. He's had the full experience the last 2 weeks. He got Orioles the previous week. This week and yesterday he got the White Sox. So is he good? Are the White Sox that bad? Is he somewhere in between? Where are we on Chris Paddack?
Chris Paddack not buying White Sox that bad. I think that's what I'm going to go with. And Chris Paddack had a nice night.
Yeah.
So, but there's nothing else from Chris Paddack this year. Like he had a couple starts where he didn't go 5 innings, and then like you said, he got buried by the Orioles, and then last night he was great. I would start basically anyone against the White Sox right now.
Yeah, I might even start you.
I probably wouldn't go that far. But anyone better than me, I would start against the White Sox. I was actually looking to see if there's anyone to stream that I could tell our listeners against the White Sox, and there's not, unless Zach Littell is available in a league. But he's gone in all mine. Like
that was hurtful last night. Zach Littell, I had him going for me against the Tigers. Oof.
Well, maybe it will average out his week. He does get the White Sox on Sunday, so.
And he was good earlier this year too. Zach Littell was. So,
yeah, for sure. Oh, he's been fine. I was annoyed about last week's. I have him in a few leagues, and I was annoyed about last night. But then I would just step back and was like, listen, he's pitched well this year overall. I didn't pay much to get him. Like I'm not whatever. But everyone else facing the White Sox this week is like a number 2 type, number 3 fantasy starter. So see
Rocky Road, Reds on the road.
Actually,
usually, I mean, if you
wanted to get in on Joe Ryan right now, his next 2 starts are both against the White Sox.
Yeah.
So Bailey Ober should be the same. They both face the White Sox Wednesday and Thursday, and then they should both face them Monday and Tuesday next week.
It's a beautiful thing.
2 White Sox in a row. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you wanted to go out and make a trade right now, short term, get a guy who can help you in a daily league. Those are your guys to get right now.
A team that I thought might be good to stream against could be the Cardinals. They broke their homerless streak yesterday. In fact, Brandon Pfaadt was rolling. I think he had a perfect game through 5. Ended up giving 2 runs in the 6th. Still left with the lead, but Goldie hit his first homer in forever. And then they got the walk-off from Nolan Gorman. Are they breaking out of it? Are they still someone you're thinking about targeting?
I'm not ready to say that they are breaking out yet. I don't know if I'm fully targeting them, but I'm a little bit targeting them. Like I don't know if I'm not ready to say yet. I'm not ready to say yet that Goldie is out of the woods from this slow start to the season. There's not a lot of. It's not a very dynamic lineup when you really if he's not if Goldschmidt's not a really great player, it's not, to me, it's not a very dynamic lineup. Arenado's good. Like he's a good hitter. Like he's not peak Arenado. He's a good hitter, but everything else is like meh. Like Brendan Donovan gets on base. Lars Nootbaar gets on base. Alec Burleson, he can get on base a bit. Nolan Gorman is supposed to have power, but I don't know. It's been really inconsistent. I don't know. I don't find this lineup to be, unless Goldschmidt gets his act together and goes back to being like a high 800s OPS guy, I don't find this lineup to be very intimidating.
Yeah, I don't either. Arenado and Goldie are just not the same versions of themselves. Both shown the decline last year and were worse. Jordan Walker has been terrible. Victor Scott was sent down. He was so bad. Yeah,
It's
not
fine.
pretty.
Like Wilson Contreras is actually off to a good start. He's got an 884 OPS this year.
Yeah, he does, but
And
not
he was
hitting any
okay last year.
homers though.
Right. He's got 2 homers and a lot of it's walks and like he's hitting second for them. So you've got a catcher with no speed hitting second. Like he's been fine, but if he's your number 2 hitter, it's not scary. You're not going to be like, oh, I can't put my fantasy starter in against these guys. They got Wilson Contreras hitting second. So, and again, like Donovan, like Brendan Donovan can get on base, but he doesn't really like put fear into you and
Right.
everything. So they've been even hitting him lead off against lefties, which I'm surprised about. So
there's this guy named Tyler O'Neill who would really fit this lineup pretty well. Oh, wait, never mind. Yeah, it's the Cardinal outfielder curse coming back, although O'Neill's hurt himself. So we'll see.
He's coming back.
Is he coming back today? I forgot to check on that.
So he's on his way back. So, yep. So the Cardinal outfield curse is continuing. But anyways, this is a lineup that I don't know. It's like an injury away from being one almost that you target. For me right now, I've just kind of treated it as neutral. I know they've been worse than neutral, but I do think like Goldschmidt will bounce back to some degree. But it could at some point this year shift to being one I target. I know they really need. Well, Donovan hasn't played well. He's hitting 202. He's a high average hitter usually, and they need Newpar to now that he's back from starting the season on the L. They need Newpar to. They keep waiting for him to break out. It's not really happening so far.
Yeah, you're right about that.
Yeah.
In that same game, Corbin Carroll beat out an infield single, but he is generally speaking really struggling so far. Is it the shoulder? Why is he so bad?
I don't know if it's the shoulder because like he's never going to tell us that probably, but
yeah.
When you go and do a deep dive on him, the average exit velocity has become like his quality of contact is just really low right now. So
right.
I have a lot of Corbin Carroll, so this is one that's kind of been keeping me up at night. The steals are still there. Like I thought Corbin Carroll could lead the majors in steals this year, and I haven't totally moved off that. Like I think that's still in the realm of possibility. He's already got 8 steals, and he's hitting 215. He's drawing walks, which is great. He actually has almost as many walks as strikeouts. Yeah, so everything's fine with Carroll to say like, oh, it's just an early season slump, except for the fact that the quality of contact is really bad. Like his average exit velocity so far this year, I just want to get the accurate number. I looked at it the other day. Is 83.6 miles an hour.
So the question is why?
Really bad.
Right?
Then is that the shoulder? Or
yeah.
Because we also like we can go back further on this and like he wasn't hitting for power. He didn't hit for power in the postseason, 2 homers in 17 games. He didn't hit for power in the second half of last year, coincidentally or not, after he hurt his shoulder. But either way, he didn't hit for power in the second half last year. So then I've been trying to decide to myself if Corbin Carroll is just like a 12 homer, 13 homer guy, like how about, and what will the batting average be if the quality of contact doesn't come back up? Like if he's like a 12 homer, 260 hitter who steals 55 bases, he's a bust for where I took him.
A lot of first half of the first round busts this year. Strider obviously got hurt.
Yep.
There's Corbin Carroll.
Yep.
Julio Rodriguez has 0 home runs so far this year.
Yep. Way more worried about Carroll than Julio. Agreed?
Me too. Is it because of the shoulder?
And just way less sample size.
Yeah.
Right? Like we've got a decent amount of sample size, and we've even got Julio having a slow start last year and then really turning it on. But I mean, with Julio, we've got 2 full years of basically being a 30 homer player. So I just don't see, unless there's an injury with Julio we don't know about, I'm just not that worried. I'm not that worried about Julio. Like I was trying to think, like I don't think I would sell low on Julio right now.
Right.
Would you trade Corbin Carroll for Ellie De La Cruz right now? Yes, probably. Right? No? Yes.
Probably, but enough that I just remember so much goodness out of Carroll that it's enough to give me pause.
But you wouldn't even consider trading Julio for Ellie right now, would you?
No, I would not.
So that's where Carroll's kind of, I feel like, gone down to. I thought about like Carroll or Juan Soto right now, right? So he's someone else, like picked around late first round. I think that's Juan Soto's off to a great start. I don't know. I'd have to dive in a little more on it, but I feel like Carroll, if we were drafting now, would go more late in the first round. Carroll or Trey Turner, who's off to a really nice start.
I
Although it's
think Trey
heavily.
Turner over Ellie even, but that's just
Although
me.
Trace Turner's start, when you start to look at it a little deeper, it's got a 4.11 BABIP. Like it's actually not like a big skills start. Like he still looks
But
like
I think and maybe I'm conveniently forgetting the first 3 months of last year with Trey
right.
Turner too, for that matter. I just think he's more stable, but maybe he isn't.
And Trey Turner only has 2 homers so far. He just has a really high batting average,
Yeah.
which again is
Yeah.
BABIP inflated. So maybe he's actually still just a 280, 30 steal guy. I don't know.
Mhm.
I think I would maybe take all those guys over Trey Turner. But anyways, Carroll's moved from, I think, being discussed in with Bobby Witt and Rodriguez and Betts. He's being moved now to, I think, to discussing the guys who went more on the 1-2 turn.
Yeah.
Unless we start to see some homers. He's also already been to Coors Field. I know that's not a big homer park, but it's a hitter's park. He spent a series at Coors Field. It didn't
Yep.
jumpstart his bat.
No, it did not.
So,
Yeah, pretty wild. Julio had 8 singles there, by the way, but he didn't have any power.
Right.
Very odd. He had 8 hits.
Yeah.
I'll take 8 hits. I won't complain too much about it.
I wouldn't be worried about Carroll if I don't know if you'll agree with this. I wouldn't be worried about Carroll if his 25 homers last year came with like a normal distribution.
Right.
But because the 25 homers last year were so front loaded, 18 in the first half and 7 in the second half.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Like he kind of profiled in the second half as like a 15 homer guy, not a 25 homer guy. I worry that that's happening.
You know what?
Here. I don't know. I'm maybe jumping the gun.
I'll take Ellie for Carroll now. I think I will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just Ellie. Yeah, Ellie just fills the box score so fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I like I said, I'm a little worried. And I took Carroll, and I hate to say this because it sucks now, but I took him over Mookie Betts twice, maybe even 3 times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's just the thing. The opportunity cost when you see Witt and Mookie going off.
Yep.
It's really tough.
I never took him over Witt. I didn't have that opportunity. But our Labor League, and when I took him 4th in our Labor League, he was the consensus 4th overall player. His NFBC ADP at that point in time was 4th in February. And then over March, Mookie, the buzz on Mookie playing shortstop, and Mookie started to move up, and then Strider moved up, and then Carroll kind of moved down to about 6th. But in March, Carroll was solidly the number 4 guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
So
it's funny. Like that's one of the few things I got right in labor is I took Witt in the first round. I took Julio over Witt and Scarf, and that's kind of the gift that keeps on giving. Mm-hmm. So that's that there. A couple more. Triston Casas, he has been diagnosed with a fractured rib. They were worried initially about a long-term absence. Now they're saying, Alex Cora is saying he will be out, quote unquote, a while.
Yeah. So let's say Newbar, I think, was dealing with a similar type of injury. He missed a few weeks, but not forever. Let's say Casas misses a month. You hold him everywhere, right?
Yeah, I think so.
850.
I'm also the guy that's still holding on to Luis Robert and Royce Lewis in the same league, and Paul Skeens. By the way, not good to have three stashes like that. That's in.
I think I have one Casas, and I think it's in a league where I also have Royce Lewis. I think they're sitting side by side.
Well, 2 from a corner spot. That's even tougher.
It's a killer, and my corners right now are terrible because of that.
Yeah, of course. Because good luck in a 15 team. We're trying to keep all of those. Yeah, really.
Yeah,
tough.
And I think I think you and Scott, briefly mentioned Bobby Dahlbeck and just how he's not an answer as far as if you're trying to replace Casas. It's not that simple.
Unless the question is who's striking out at the highest rate in baseball, Dahlbeck is not the answer.
That's right. So you're not going to get your help there. So you're going to have to look elsewhere. At least I'm finding I'm having more trouble covering third base when I like the Royce Lewis than Casas. I forget who I found, but I was able to find someone to replace him. But yeah, I find third base more of a problem. But yeah, he'll be out about a month. I think you have to hold him. Even in 12s, I think you probably hold him. It's hard to find power on the waiver wire. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you're finding that too, but I find if I'm doing searches when I'm doing my bids on Sunday night and NFBC, and I search like homers in the last week or homers in the last 2 weeks or steals in the last couple weeks, like the totals are always higher with steals. Now, some of those are like one category type guys, Jacob Young types. But it's hard to find power on the waiver wire.
It is. It really is.
So I don't think I can cut a power hitter.
Yep. Related to the Red Sox, Rafael Devers is not in the lineup yet, but there is a note. We do have a note saying he should start tomorrow, which would be Wednesday. Scheduled to start as a designated hitter on Wednesday. Saturday would just be one more day. Bad weather in Cleveland, by the way, for that series, at least for Tuesday night's game. So that might have something to do with it as well.
Yeah.
Tyler O'Neill, however, is back in the lineup today. So thank you, for that, and thank you for the Red Sox for bringing it back. I was saying thank you to my wife because she brought me something back here, so that was nice of her. So multitasking, doing and having fun at the same time. So Devers, I mean, I've got him in my AL only home league, which is not coincidentally is struggling right now. I also have one of my many Kenta Maeda leagues, and that one's been tough.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you get these early round, like we just talked about Carroll, who's causing me a lot of trouble. Julio, you get a Devers who's causing you trouble. Like where we're on April 23rd, season's been going almost a month. He's hitting under 200 with 2 home runs, no steals. Like these guys, and you were counting on them to lead your team. So that is something that I've been thinking about. I put this in our notes, just from a big picture perspective, is like, if you're going to be struggling somewhere right now, where do you want to be struggling? Which is like, obviously you prefer not to be struggling, but if you're going to be struggling, would you rather be struggling with your pitching than your hitting? Or would you rather have your stars playing well and nothing's working behind them? Or would you rather have your stars playing poorly, but maybe you've got a Kikuchi and a Chris Sanchez, and you've got some guys who you took in the middle rounds who are playing well, and your team's still not doing well because you started Julio and Devers and Kevin Gausman or something like that to start your draft, and they're the ones who are selling you out so far. Like, what are the best ways to be struggling right now?
Yeah, I'd rather be having my hitters rake and my pitchers struggle, because I feel like pitchers are a lot more volatile, and be replaceable. So whereas if your hitters aren't hitting, well, you're just stuck with it, I feel like many times. So yeah, that doesn't apply all the way across the board, but yeah, if you've got, Corbin Carroll, you're not replacing him by anybody. You're just riding it out, especially in the NFBC. So I'd rather have my hitters hit. And at least then you're adding positive stats. Whereas I think pitching is sometimes erasing negative stats.
Interesting. I thought about, I think I would rather have my problems be my best players, like Carroll, like Julio. Like if I look at, I have some teams maybe that they're off to okay starts, but when I set the lineup, I look at every spot and I'm like, oh, all these guys should be in a 15 team lineup. Like everyone here, like I don't feel that way about all my lineups, but I have some teams where when I look at the lineup, I'm like, yeah, every hitter here, every pitcher here, I feel good about. I feel like they all belong in a 15 team lineup to start this week. They're not all superstars, but they're all good enough. And then my problem is that, like I said, I have a Carroll and a Gausman and things like that, and they're Devers, and they're the ones killing me. I'm like, okay, well, if they kill me, they kill me, but they're sitting in the lineup and hopefully they come around. Yeah. I think when I feel like I can't fill out the lineup, like if I'm putting in like 3 Albert Suarez types, then I'm like, okay, there's something wrong with this team. Like some things have gone wrong. I don't know if I'm going to be able to pack. Okay, I got away with one on Suarez, but I didn't get away with one on Joe Ross last week or something like that. Like too many holes that I'm plugging. I think that's when I feel like it's a problem. So that's what I'd like to see, is like where I invested the most, that's where my struggles are. Then I guess I'm going to naturally be more confident that those players are going to come around.
See, I also kind of look at it the other way though. Like I spent this much on hitting and they're still struggling. I can't spend more,
No, you got to wait for them to come around. Like you said, if you have Corbin Carroll, there's nothing to do unless you're in a trading league and you want to try to get cute about it. But if you're in an NFBC type or whatever, there's nothing to do. You just cross your fingers that Corbin Carroll comes around.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Do you have any of those types in labor, which is a trading league? Is there anyone that you would kind of look and see like, okay, so now I have to see this now and see if you have a struggler that we can kind of look at here.
Do I have strugglers in labor? Well, my pitching is atrocious.
Okay.
So my pitching and labor has been atrocious. It started off with like the ERAs and whips were almost comical for me at the start of the year. Like Bailey,
you got Obered. Yeah.
If I could just name some guys, I have Jesus Luzardo.
Yeah.
Got off to a horrendous start. I had to use Ryan Weathers at the start of the year because I picked him up because I was like, hey, Ryan Weathers, he could be okay. His worst starts were at the beginning before I could get him to my bench in labor. Alexis Diaz has finally got his ratios down, but they were terrible for a while. Camilo Duvall has finally got his ratios down. They were terrible for a while. So my pitching in labor, aside from Grayson Rodriguez, basically has been really bad. Lost Josh Bradley before the season started. Yeah.
Yeah, I see that AJ Puck sitting there on your
oh yes, he soaked up got a couple bad starts out of AJ Puck before I think I absorbed 2 weeks of him. I got one bad start and then I went for it again the next week, and then it didn't go well. So yep, I've got some guys on that labor. I've got Heimer Candelario. He's off to a really bad start.
Yes, he is.
Both of my catchers are hitting under 200. That's a tough feat to pull off, even at the catcher position.
Especially when you invested a little bit, in the case of Garver, at least.
Yeah, Mitch Garver. He's off to a really bad start. I've got Carroll on the team. James Outman has decided to hit under 200 so far this season.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of guys. So I think I'm just going to ride these guys. Like I believed in Outman. I still do.
Mm-hmm.
I still believe that Garver can get this turned around. Like, he's a DH. He can hit. I don't know. He should be healthy. So
I've got the similar dynamic. I mean, I just picked up Hunter Renfroe as an improvement over one of my outfielders. That's how bad my outfield has been. Austin Hayes just got the boot. So that's been tough too. I hear you. It's not fun when you've got super slumpers like that.
Yeah.
And Encarnacion Strand's another one for me too.
Oh, yes.
I have one player. No, it's not true. I have 3 players with more than 2 homers, but point is, it's tough.
I was so excited about Encarnacion Strand.
Me too. But he has 1 walk all season long. So very
26 to 1 strikeout to walk is not good. 241 BABIP though, that could turn around.
Yeah, it could. It very well could.
But that one is really bad. But I think with most of these guys at this point, we're still, I guess you just hold them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then if you've been burned on some things, I used Trey Lipscomb in our labor league and he got me 3 steals in the first week I used him. So I was like, okay, well, whatever, he's playing, I'll use him. And then the next week they sent him to the minors right after, like on Monday night.
Oh, of course, Monday night. That's always the worst.
Yes, and I was not able to, and he was already locked into my lineup, or at least by the time I found out he was locked into my lineup. And anyways, I don't think I had a good replacement for him. And I was like, oh my goodness, like they just always, anyways. So just little things like that, they do even out over the course of a full season, but in April they don't.
Right.
So I played the 0 for him for a week. So yeah.
So, all right. Anyways. I think that's where we're gonna leave off for this week. Fun doing a daytime podcast with you. You'll actually get a decent night's sleep. I'm happy to contribute to that, to your greater overall health.
Yeah, for sure. I'm excited about that. We should be able to do some daytime ones from now on. So maybe I'll be a little perkier for those ones.
All right. Very good. Thanks everybody for listening. Thanks to Prize Picks and to Vivid Seats for their sponsorship. Guys, if you really did like this podcast, smash that like button, please. Please subscribe. Please rate us and review us. And of course, check out our free promo, our free trial, rotowire.com/pod. Thanks everybody. Good luck in your games tonight. Take care.